I bought a salvage Harley-Davidson. The motorcycle was a common thread in our infrequent phone conversations over the past couple of years, as my dad updated me with tales of his new family. The Harley was bought running, but missing parts. The previous owner crumpled the forks in a collision, which as far as Harley mods go isn't the most tasteless I've seen. The Harley was made rideable quickly, the forks replaced, brakes repaired, and dry tires filled with air. More than a year passed before I decided to quit RM and go on the highway. It was the summer of 2010 when pain and chaos filled my days. When every day was a struggle following the sudden death of my wife Madeline. Looking back on those gray, empty Oakland days, I realized that the need for freedom and openness was what finally forced me to make such a drastic change. I needed a hard reset of my current mindset and environment. I needed to overcome my despair, and I knew what I craved. I had to get away. On June 10th, I put Oakland in my rearview mirror and set out to explore. The plan was to visit the Midwest and travel on to California mainly because the interstate led me there. I started the journey from Oakland. I enjoyed the serenity and the silence on the road to its maximum. Nothing but farmland and plains, but I found a specific beauty and tranquility with this mesmerizing flatness. The highway anchors the view, a perfect double line of road through the expansive nothingness. But this symbol is deceiving because it is both expansive and restricting. A giant eye squaring off a panoramic view. The smell of manure gave a feeling of the countryside, the long grass waving with the slightest breeze, with the calm of a soft, rolling sea. I can't remember how long I must have ridden. 1 hour, 2 hours, 5 hours, 10 hours. It just seemed like an endless road. A road with no destination. I needed gas. I just managed to limp into a 2-pump gas station. It was a shabby gas station and diner. I pulled in. The diner was full of loneliness. No couples, no families, everybody was a stranger. The worn-faced waitress wanted to talk. I asked what folks did around here for fun. Rolling her eyes suggestively.
Well, what did you have in mind, honey?
She said. Obviously, she had been a good-time gal in about 1956. She told me there was nothing interesting about this place. She was cloaked in loneliness for all to see. I was not the best person to talk to, just an anonymous tourist passing through. Still, talking to me was better than talking to the walls. Following coffee and a hot dog with mustard, I stood alongside my bike. The pumps were run by a man who looked at least 85 years old.
Where are you from?
He asked. Oakland, I replied. He said we don't get many bikers from there. He withdrew the gas pump nozzle from the bike's tank, sloshing gas on the tank and the ground. He had a cigarette butt plugged between his lips. I was terrified he was going to light it, but he had no matches. Like the other drivers on either side of me, I watched the cars and drivers. All of us didn't make eye contact, talk or communicate in any way. All we shared was a lingering glimpse into each other's lives. The driver of an enormous semi-trailer truck sauntered up to me and started a conversation. Alone in his rig all day, he needed conversation, even if it was just with a stranger. He showed me pictures of his Harley Softail and told me about his wife Dixie back home in Alabama. He pulled out of the gas station 30 minutes before me, but I soon caught up, passing him with a honk. In my mirror, his rig quickly disappeared over the horizon, gone forever. There are so many different types of bikes, colors, styles, and sizes. You can tell a lot about a person by the bikes they ride. There are the travelers, with their bikes laden and dirty. The racer with their modern, superbikes. Angels with patches, hogs, and attitude. Then there's me with an old ratty Harley held together with bad welding and a questionable origin. I never realized how many different bikes existed. I suppose you notice things that you used to take for granted when you're a traveler. Summer is the time when the bikes appear and replace the SUV. I, with my old battered Harley, which is used all year in rain, hail or shine, have never before taken notice of the types of bike and their riders. The people who can travel this way belong to a class of their own. Renegade adventurers. Bikes can be so basic, something many take for granted. Yet, they are a simple, very clear sign that I am included in this tribe of people. I notice that the traffic has picked up slightly, more than the usual 3 or 4 cars ahead of me. A thicket of dead tractor-trailers, being used as billboards announcing a town ahead. Then grain silos, gas station signs, and lastly motel and fast food. As thunder claps overhead, a hot gust of wind blows people into cars and shops. Unperturbed, I ride on, pulling my visor down closer to my face, a feeble attempt to retain some dryness. Oklahoma is hot, wet and dusty. The highway is unfamiliar. I turn a corner, the town is old and straight from the Wild West. The Thunderbird Motel comes into view. Perhaps this would be somewhere to stay. The motel has a small set of rooms, on the edge of a highway, and is run down and faded. It's late in the afternoon, and I'm ready to check in. The storm is getting closer. But the hotel clerk says the room is rented by the hour but is $39.50 for a night.
You want it or not?
She asked. I said yes. The front desk lady smirked, handing me the key for 21A. The haunting image of the desk lady's witch-like nose and bony fingers imprinted on my brain. I opened the door to the room, a musky scent engulfed me, as I took in the small, run-down space before me. I stay because I have to, otherwise, much-needed rest will be hard to come by. This must be some kind of penance. There was a small color television in one corner and 2 bent coat hangers. With a warm shower in my mind, I entered the bathroom. A cracked mirror, shower curtains that did not match, and the tiles were chipped and cracked beyond belief. The shower was a nozzle that sprouted from the tiles. It dribbled lukewarm water. Even after all these years, I still feel a heavyweight settle in my chest as memories of scenes with my own father surface. Memories of home, protection, and family. I don't have many, but I treasure those that I do. Alone with no companion, nobody to talk to. I unpack and go to the bar. As I approach, a man glances at me, then averts his eyes while adopting a look of indifference. Just before, I see a mixture of pity and judgment flash across his face. A stranger is something most people around here don't want to see, and would rather pretend didn't exist. There is a table that separates me from him. So, I sat there. To him out here in the middle of nowhere, I am just curiosity and unspeakably loathsome. I am a forgotten tribe, not worthy of conversation. I order and wait. A moment of euphoric quietness descended over me. It was nice to be sitting somewhere that was not on the saddle of the bike. The best part is that I don't have to travel anywhere for a few hours. A wave of introspection envelopes me. It would be nice to find a place to belong, a place to be accepted. Maybe one day it'll be different. For now, I'm alone in a lonely sea of 1,000 faces.
Back in 21A, he placed a gun to his head and counted 1, 2. The gunshot rang throughout the motel, an echo in the quiet night. The desk lady smiled as her dog began to bark. She turned to the notebook hanging on the wall. Grabbing a pen, she changed the number from 25 to 26.
Hello listeners, this is WFM on 106.2, it's 8:30 a.m. on this fine morning. This is Bruce Miller with the latest news. Thank you, the price of corn continues to roll downhill after last week's unexpected turnover, Michael Hernandez has been arrested in Claremore for illegal drug trafficking. A young couple, who have yet to be identified, and 3 children were killed when a Cessna 150 crashed into their house and burst into flames in Alleghenies. And finally, a middle-aged biker, Max Anderson, 48, was found dead in a room at the infamous Thunderbird Motel this morning. It appears the man committed suicide, making him the 26th person to do so since the motel's opening 10 years ago.
Later, state troopers found a suicide note in 21A.
In these moments before my departure, I feel more clarity than I have ever felt in my dull life. In 1 minute, I will be free from the voices, from the pain, and from myself.